We'd like to welcome everyone to another episode of the Gangster Chronicles Podcast. Make sure you download the Eiht app, search for the Gangster Chronicles Podcast. All my iPhone users, go to Apple Podcasts, search for the Gangster Chronicles, subscribe, leave a comment, and a 5-star rating. Tonight we have some very special individuals in the house. So first, let me introduce my co-host.
Big J.
GMC Eiht.
Yeah. What more can I say, man? We got some certified.
It's a lot to say about these two fellas here, and it's about time that we had a show like this, because not only me, not only Ayht, cats that's been on the streets and unaware of the information that they about to share with us. A lot of us brothers need to hear this, because a lot of us been misled. I had the privilege of knowing this man right here, and seeing his get down and understanding my position and my place to be where I was at. And I just want everybody to listen and understand where these two men are coming from. It's totally different from what we heard. We're about to see. We're about to see. I think this is going to be the one.
Well, man, I know they got a long history, man. Pick a year. Take me to 71.
71.
Right, Melvin Farmer and my companion and running mate, Ayatolla Marvin. We represent credible messengers around the globe, because it's out of New York where we work with Mayor Bowles in New York where it created. But we're the first representatives from Compton and Los Angeles to where we deal with redefining the community. So tonight's show is going to take place in the year, and I'm glad you said the year. 1971, because that's where we're going to start. But as you're going to see at the end of this show, that's where I parted.
So basically, you finna give us a tale of the real hood, so to speak.
We're going to take you back in history where we ain't telling you of stories we've heard. We're telling you of men that have done, all my friends had either 30 arrests by 17 or convicted of a homicide, or had been in jail over 30 times, and usually all three of them had occurred. So we're going back to an era to where you'll fit hear eyewitness testimony, because we got to give all things to God by faith, because a lot of times the only thing stronger than a man's pride is a mother's love. So we have to drop our pride, and we're here to address something that could affect the nation, where we feel the youths of today, where there's no color lines, no cuts, where we feel as a unit that the juvenile justice system must be addressed when we're talking about black issues and equality and justice in America. I don't believe where you can march where your feet bleed, as opposed to when we in jail. We know that you can say all you want, but if you can't put something on that paper, no change has occurred. You're not coming home.
Exactly.
So we go into the papers where we feel it's three areas I address.
Right.
I'm with coalition of credible message, but I'm also with an organization out of Queens, New York, called Code Black Coalition, and one of the members is Pat Robertson, executive director of the Colin Kaepernick Know Your Rights Camp. I work with her on this. We have a co-host and do a project called Think Twice. So when whatever we say, we want you to think twice. It's always two sides to a pancake. So we want to be fair. But now we're going to take you back in a time to where we're going to try to put some eye drop in your ear. So when it come out, everything will be crystal clear. Because we're going to go by facts, not artifacts. That was then, this is now. So let's get the show started. Marv, when you started off and was going to the criminal justice system, because we're fit to address the juvenile fitness here, where we believe that these kids are being violated behind committing a crime at 15, and then because the clock don't stop, that the punishment turned to an adult sentence when they couldn't vote, they couldn't go out and drink, and they couldn't get driver's license. So why would you go and take something that happened there and see what I'm saying?
Okay, well, let's take it back a little bit and tell us how, as young adolescents, so to speak, was the scene back in 71
Down.
How you gentlemen,
We
as
conducted
far as
ourselves.
where we was from, where you was from, how you got started. What was the move behind, the formation
I got you.
of what we
Of what we established
Yes.
now, the formation and the crystallization of the Crips and Bloods as they known today, in a nutshell. 1971, that's when West Side, East Side, and Compton was then. There was no sets, was no colors. Tookie Nim was, he was in fact the Brookings, because Donald Archie, Sweetback, introduced him. So during that time, they all had, I would look at their demeanors, their characters, their styles, and their grace. That's what I got from Tookie, because don't forget, if I'm 14, they're adults. That's why the year starts at 71.
Okay.
So now, they never had, they might have had squabbles, but usually when I seen Buddha got killed, I was there and watched them whisper. They had another one, Bub got killed, that was one of them. So when a murder happened in them days, it usually was a personal dispute that was handled internally as opposed to somebody coming. And then, now the next group come because of the Ballou murder, that really took all the West Side from Horace Mann out, because the juveniles that were involved got out of state release, everybody else went to prison, and that's when you came with the West Side, where it lasted from 71. Now these the juveniles that take over, because when the murder happened, another murder happened, and I hate to go back into this because when I speak, it's going to open wounds for both sides, victim and suspect. So we're going to go with a name named DG, and I can say this because this is a fact. No, we're going to go to Valerie Briscoe Hooks and what we could get away with in 71 all the way to 75. That way it won't be where we talking where somebody can go and play a hate and say you telling secrets. So this public knowledge.
Snitching, so to speak.
Yeah, no, but they don't know what snitching is. That's
Okay,
when you
we gonna
do.
get into that.
Let's
We
get
gonna
it
get into
going.
that.
So now we're gonna go back to Valerie Briscoe Hooks, and my condolences to you, and condolences to the young man that got slain 1 year to the day later. Valerie Briscoe Hooks, if you look at her biography, she says she was inspired by her brother's death, where he got shot during training, and it was gunfire between youths shooting at Lock High. But he also say when one of the brothers talked about it, that he said it seemed like it was common occurrences. That's what the newspaper said. Now, this is probably, if she's 14, this is 73, 74. So anyway, the suspect go and tell his mama he did it and tell, basically, I think I killed somebody. She take him to juvenile hall, and she tell him, and they should have went to court. He sat in court a year, and they say, we have no law to try him. And they let him go. Then 1 year later, when he got out, the same day he got out, this is how karma go. He got killed where they was waiting on him. Now, the more thing to make it official with me is the fact that I know the victim name, and he's never been mentioned because he a juvenile. You only could know if he was there. Howard Morrison was in the 9th grade, and he called him Vamp, and he got killed. My boy got killed when he was 14, because when I walked over there to see him after he got out, when I got there, he was dead. So I don't like talking too much about that era, but those are one of the things that could come where your behavior to where they said because of the public safety, we have to judge when does rehabilitation stop, because by then we don't have 40 arrests. Mm-hmm. There was nothing we can do. Carjacking, sight out. Tattoos wasn't even thought about. Violence, let me see what else you could get away that was good. Extortion. When we took cars, and I learned from Odie, and everybody know Odie got killed, so we'll go to Odie. This time it's to you, my brother. He got killed. Odie started Block, was Melvin Hardy who started Block. You got UG, United Underground on the west side, because that's where I'm from, but I can cover the rest, but I'm going to keep it where these are facts in my life. It went from the west side, when that started, was Michael Christian, Barefoot Pookie, O'Neal Brown, Babyface, Tony States. It's a gang of us, but we formed the West Side. Then that didn't last too long because that era, after the 72, that's when the gang and the change where we could kill or where you can pull the trigger. Because by the time I was 21, I'm under a law to this day where if I ever be seen with a gun or get caught with one, I'm up under trigger lock. And that on you can get. And anybody know, this to my homeboy Wood Rat, and you always hear me say rest in peace. So this is a lesson. This could save your life. My boy Wood Rat, he got 20 years, Compton. Did 20 years for right when he was getting ready to go home from Folsom after the war. They come and say, hey man, even though you beat the case, we got you, because we signed the paper together. And that's when I didn't even know about it. But I learned from him never get caught with a gun again, because he did 20 years where he beat the case and the Fed said, don't matter, you've been using guns. So we all was getting shut out. So it was basically the Wild Wild West during that era, but it was unity. There was no, it was strictly blood versus Crip, if they was called that. On our side of town, you had 5'9" Brims, the Van Ness boys, Donald Ray, Fat Butchie, Gerald McMillan, they need to let him out. Swede Connie, rest in peace. Then you had the Inglewood family, Douglas Green, since 1972. That's 48 years ago. Y'all talking about 48 hours. Big difference. So the atmosphere, we could do what we wanted to do. Then in 75, they caught up to it. And they started noticing we can't rehabilitate them. And that's when it went to the Supreme Court, to where we're going to have to start charging them between the ages of 16 and 17 to where they will be tried as an adult. So from 75 to this day, anybody that were committing criminal acts where they committed murder, see, they didn't say any murder. They say because of these youths, they're getting away with murder. And they said that's why you got violence offenses. And then as the 50 years went on, when we were getting cited out for taking cars, y'all get carjacking jacked. See how later on they come back and they just changed the law where they increased the penalty, but the same thing happened. So when we was doing it, we were getting traffic tickets where my mama was my bail bondsman. We didn't have to worry about it because we were wards of the court, and they were really treating juveniles, which we should go back to where they are being rehabilitated and given a chance. But also that depends on these youth's behavior. They can't go and ask for to get their freedom, and you're acting like an animal. That gives them the excuse. So why don't we fall back and we're gonna help you? Simple as that.
So Mel, that's when I remember something like that, because some of the OG homies was kicking it with the little homies. The little homies would take the crime because they wouldn't catch that.
You couldn't get the charge.
Couldn't get it, yeah.
That's
so,
exactly.
yeah, because we had a lot of homies go to jail behind that. Oh, no, he just going to take it because he going to go to juvenile hall and get out. Opposed to me being 25, I'm going straight.
And that's why they fell back. But I don't want to. I want Marv to say a little bit about
I want Marv to tell
y'all get there
about how you got started as a youth, and how you got started representing and where you was from. You from Compton and whatever. So give us a little background on.
Well, as Melvin go, we go prior to 71.
Bingo.
And prior to 71, it was the criminal justice system in dealing with youth was on rehabilitation.
Okay.
So, like he talked about getting arrested 40 times. I was born on Elm Street. I'm from Nightmare on Elm Street, Compton, California.
That's right. Shout out to Elm Street.
Elm Street.
Yeah, well, I mean, and at that time, our sets was, we were all treetops because all our streets are named after trees. And your side was all the swamps before
Okay, now, that's crazy because Treetop is now across the
I'm
trees.
going to tell you how they got
yeah,
there.
Definitely.
So your neighborhood was all swamps from Compton Boulevard back to Alondra. From Alondra over where Nutty Block is now, they was called Boot Hill because it was by the graveyard.
Right.
Arcadia Block was called Spooktown.
And Spooktown now is across the track.
Right. So now we go over to, before Fruit Town was Fruit Town, there was the Bliss Boys.
Okay.
You dig what I'm saying? So I grew up, the first murder we had in Compton was Clarence Stubblefield killed Ferguson in 1969. Stayed across the street from each other. Now, he got 18 months in youth authority because he was 16. Because it was rehabilitation. When I go to juvenile, I've been going to jail since 1959. And I would go to the Rodeo program, 30-day program. Go to you do the Marshall program, you do 90 days.
Right.
Because white America couldn't understand the psychic of black. You know what I'm saying? So they said we had that learning curve, so we couldn't commit crimes and be knowledgeable for them. I caught my first body at 17. Went to juvenile hall, got found an unfit juvenile, and went to youth authority.
Okay.
Could have did
YA.
it. YA. Went to youth authority. I went to YTS. Got involved in a riot in YTS, caught a body. I'm the first juvenile or young adult to get sent from YA to San Quentin. But that's another story.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
But just give it authenticity.
Right.
Well, we can come
exactly.
back.
So,
That's all it is.
Giving us the history.
Yeah,
right,
giving
you know
it
what
to
I'm
So
saying?
in Compton, when we started gangbanging, I saw most of the Crips come into YA in youth authority. We're talking about Bunchy Griffin, Crazy Crip, Kevin Williams, Minnesota,
Ricky Bonneville, y'all.
Ricky Bonneville,
Minnesota, elementary.
Oh, you know what I'm saying? It was accused of 14 murders at 14.
Please don't tell them murder, hammer.
So when these dudes came in, we was all Compton. It wasn't no set tripping in Compton. It was just one Compton. So wherever we was from, we was down. What separated Compton and the gangbanging, we talk about, we go to 72.
Right.
Okay. Billy Flowers got killed by Jody Crawford on Wilmington and Compton Boulevard at the Chevron station.
Okay.
About a girl that stayed on Palmer Street. And when Jody Crawford killed little Billy Flowers was from Parmalee and Piru. So they took his body. Jody Crawford was out of the Watts, out of the JDs. When they took his body down to Harrison Ross Funeral Home, the JDs came and was the first ones to turn over a casket. Billy Flowers.
Check your history right quick.
Billy Flowers called Puddin' and Tam them, and they came and sat down at the funeral home for 3 days. And every time somebody come, they would bustle them and say, "Who is these niggas here? We from Piru Street." So this is how Pirus came, and the first division came with Watts.
Okay.
And that's where it came. And then when Lil Punkin and Double Barrel Bob came to the Watts Festival in 1971, Craig Munson them said any Bloods come to 5'9", any 5'9s come to the Watts.
Talk about Punkin, rest in peace.
Little Punkin from 5'9 Brims. So he said anybody comes out of there, we taking care of them.
Okay.
So to sweep them out of the bounty hunters, they came and all of them had raincoats on with shotguns on them. And they said, "Well, who are y'all?" He said, "We bounty hunters. We looking for Crips. This is the beginning of the bounty hunters." You did. So then they start calling Pirus. Dudes from LA didn't know what a Piru was, so they start calling us roosters.
Right.
Okay.
So that's where the red came in at.
Right.
Okay.
And so that set us up with the red and the blue.
Okay.
Oh my God, this is
You know what I'm saying?
history.
So that's where we come. So when he's talking about the different filing, before you could go to YA for being incorrigible. Your mama them couldn't handle you, but it wasn't a crime.
Okay.
In 1971, they made it a felony because blacks were shooting. I had 3 on clear people.
Okay.
And didn't do all day. Now for us killing each other, I got one of my little homeboys from Fruitown, 16 years old. He just got 250 years to life.
Right.
How you gonna do a percentage of that?
My son
You know,
got
so it's
450.
massive incarceration now.
My son got 450 after I told him don't never go behind me in life with my name where they see my record, you're gonna get it. He got 450. So I'm gonna come help him out and get him back or give him a chance. So this ride, there's a lot of things at stake here. And not to cut you off, Marv, but they get the picture. And we also want to focus on what we can do to help you, because we can always come back and tell tales.
Exactly.
We got a lot of shit, but tonight it's important.
Well,
tonight.
that's where I'm at,
There you go.
because I'm trying to reach out to the youngsters that don't understand this history at this table. And like I said at first, everybody is misinformed. Even I was misinformed. And my true belief was to be where you was from and represented 100.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And that took me to a different place. You know what I'm saying? And I had help. You know what I'm saying? But now that I got older, how do I help fix what I broke?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I can't bring nothing back, but how do I help fix what I destroyed? We tore up Compton. We destroyed it with the drugs and the gangbanging. So here I am now. Now I got y'all up here. Y'all can tell us that this wasn't supposed to be. Us getting down the way we getting down and the way we killing each other wasn't supposed to be.
But let me interject on that and what Melvin is saying about the justice system and our position as OGs or older people. If you look in the penitentiary system right now, with Mexicans, old Mexicans, they deal with their youth. They tell, man, we don't deal with mayates, we don't do this, we don't do that. But old blacks try to be 20 and try to give misinformation. You feel what I'm saying? They don't give the real. You get some dude 40 or 50 years old talk about gangbanging. 90% of the time, he didn't do shit at 17. Right. He just got out the house.
Got more graduation pictures and mugshot.
Yeah.
That's what we say.
Yeah.
How the hell you got only 3 goddamn ways to get a mugshot or a graduation picture, and you can't top a mugshot? I had 40 of them about 17.
So this is where we have miscommunication in our in who we dealing with our youth. Right. When I grew, I'll tell you a story. The other day, I was talking to my son. My grandson wilding out. He from Fruittown. Well, he got misinformed by some old niggas about who I was.
Right.
So he doing some dumb shit.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I did some dumb shit. So my son called me because my grandson had done some dumb shit. And I talked to his mother about it. And my grandson and my son, I'm telling him, he said, man, Dad, I got to go over and talk to him. I said, man, this dude is on a suicide mission. Now, my son is 20 years old.
Right.
He tells me, Dad, what do you mean? He on a suicide mission. What are you talking about? Why? I said, man, dude is doing, what would you rather for him to do? Get caught with a gun or get killed with a gun? Basically, it got nothing to do with me. If he get killed, I'm gonna go to the funeral, but I'm not going to the graveyard. Mm-hmm. If he go to prison, if he go to court, I'll go to court, but I'm not going to prison. Right. I ain't got to fight a dog in the fight. So, but my son tell me, man, couldn't nobody tell you nothing when you was growing up. You being a hypocrite. But I had to ask him, how do you know? I just met you, nigga. Mm-hmm. We've been together about 20 years.
Right.
Matter of fact, I don't know you. I knew your mama. Fucked her. You came as a +1. Okay. You feel what I'm saying?
And why do you think that our youth are so misinformed today?
Because we didn't inform them. We didn't inform them.
Let me give you another one to answer that from the era that this is what happened. 71, I'm going back. So that means 75, they turning 18. These are active ones, though. Okay. Nobody's not active from 71. But really, the killing didn't start till 72. From 71 to 72, we were delinquents where we are stealing beer off the truck, stealing, mischievous, stealing Crip gear because we crippin'. But then, bullshit. Right, but we delinquents. We're doing stuff like the Bad News Bears. Right. But in 72, when the Bolu murder happened, that knocked the West Side for a loop because them was Tookie's OG homeboys. Bobby Crip, rest in peace. That's big, that's hard. Ricardo Sims, Bub. Rest in peace. Don't say Justin Baycock. Don't. That's the one who never want his name mentioned because his wife don't even know he got the case. And he been out since 79. They did what's up on the 7-Up. Right. They got out in 79. So when they left, Tookie them was next. But on the West Side, they have always had gangs. Let's remember that.
Okay.
They had avenues. They had businessmen. So never think that the Crips come from those factions or had their ideologies. Because most of those dudes, when we got to prison later on, were BGFs.
All to be jail.
All of them. And then when the Bloods came to prison when we turned 20 and went, since they was fighting Crips only, they turned and got in. That's when you get UBN with Peabody,
Right.
Jan Brewer, and they go to New York. I'm right there on the tier.
Right.
Please, don't fuck with me this year.
Right.
So anyway, 75 come. And this is where another part of the Red Sea happened as far as gang activity when you're really about it. See, now you can have 9 sugar bears. 1, 2, 3, 4 little sugar bear, big. Ain't nobody emulating us because it ain't nobody following us.
Right.
We only got us. Crips, Bloods, and the Mexican mafias, which was the Southern Ranios now. Those were the kids that were sowing their oats. But in 75, what happens if we count the numbers? They turn 18 and can go to the prison. So 75, that's when you get the original, and I'm going to name them off, you was there, Raymond Washington, and they don't know about Sidney Hefner,
Right.
Dead-Eye. You had Bob and them, they actually were the first Crips there, where they was threatening them, where they was almost for the killing for coming in for killing a black. And we talking about the Black Panthers, Jonathan Jackson, George Jackson. These men were actually there as the Soledad brothers. They witnessed that. So after I followed, we followed them, and that's where it parted. That means all the ones that were setting the tradition on the west side, the Hoovers, the Hundreds, the 60s, the Harlems, Paybacks, Watergates, 111s.
So everybody just start forming.
No, that left a void to where the leadership went, because don't forget, all my friends did 30 years. If they just started in 71, that means they got 26 years where they gone. That's when the new ones come in and the sets broke. Now you got people trying to tell other ones what to do, and that's when the separation grew. Everybody wants to be king shit or Turd Island, because that's what you own. And that's when the division, he in jail, now look at it. The originals and our protocol has disappeared, because now it goes from that to where when Crips got killed, it was internal, where it was really personal. It wasn't no thing about this gang. It's just business.
And let me interject this. So you're talking about 81 started the era when gang violence was at the peak. The government started with Operation Weed and Seed. When you talk about the OGs going to prison for 30 years, they had an SSU squad in 81 to 83. Every OG to get out of prison and would get caught in a felony, they wouldn't arrest them, they was killing them.
And they'd kill them, and they had to disband it. Nothing new.
You didn't know that?
Was OSS.
I knew that.
Yeah.
Fucking kidding me?
They had an OSS for the ones that would do jackets.
I know about OSS.
But they was killing them. They had to go, and a lot of men was from our community where they had to disband it, where they were trailing them, killing them, and letting them do the robbery. And could have been stopped them. They were killing
Cadillac Bob.
Cadillac Bob, Motor Mouth in there, Stag got killed. We can name a lot of them. So that's also...
So that's Operation Weed and Seed. Okay. So when you talk about people and start infiltrating, before Operation Weed and Seed, it was a COINTEL program.
Okay.
COINTEL got rid of the Black Panthers, the Maulana Ron Karenga and us, and black dissident organizations. So they changed COINTEL Pro to Operation Weed and Seed. So now they moved in new niggas to tell you something that were informants. You know what I'm saying?
So hold on. So they just started the whole infiltration thing. That's just came in just with the destroy everything.
With the US organization, Dr. Karenga. But this is what. Go ahead. Let me show you interject right quick. But this is where we go in this myth. I'll tell you, we're coming with facts. Most people say it's a spinoff, and that the Crips were infiltrated by them. But they didn't even know about us in 71. We were dormant. Yeah. So people would infer that the Black Panthers, the police came, we were juveniles. While they were passing out lunches, we taking everything we can get. So imagine that's why you have to separate this. They were pro-black, am I correct? Mm-hmm. We anti-black. So imagine when we go to jail and they fighting civil rights and we coming in there with a blue rag talking about we killing blacks. You know what they said? Tuck it.
Can you reiterate? You just said something that was deep. You
It's
said
the-
that you were anti-black.
We were anti anybody because anybody could get it, but
Right.
we're going to address something where when they talk about black on black crime, if we the closest you only kill, they got every race has tried to kill me and this man because of the color of skin, including you.
Yeah.
But we only kill ourselves because of the areas that are near to us at the closest.
But let me interject this
So
also.
we need to,
Once it wasn't that we start being anti-black.
not them.
Because
that's why I
no,
said
no,
us.
I'm talking about
We were.
even with
we
Crips.
didn't care who it was.
Even with Crips, because
West Side,
the
like
Balloon
that.
murder,
Everybody got it.
the Balloon murder came from a stomping, from a fight. They didn't shoot him. You did
And
what I'm
we-
saying? It came from fighting. And so when it came
72,
from fighting,
and that's when the
now
trigger
when
started.
when
We
the
didn't
trigger
play it. We
thing
only
started,
14.
what white America did is start glorifying it. And when they start glorifying and putting it on me, it's easier for me to kill you than go kill somebody in Hollywood.
Right.
You do what I'm saying?
That's
so
exactly
now,
what
so
happened.
the same
Facts.
thing happened when it started. You look in the 90s and the 2000s, they start glorifying carjacking.
Bingo.
And every got high-speed chase. But before it was on the news, you never heard about it.
No.
Right.
But everybody
how they
wanted that 15 minutes of fame. So gang members, we started the same shit. Well, okay, well, shit, if I kill somebody, I'm going to be on Eyewitness News and throwing up my set.
Exactly.
You understand me? That's Operation Weed and Seed.
Yeah.
You dig what I'm saying? So it's not that you hate me. When white America teach you to hate me, when you knew better, you do better.
I mean, because that shit happens today. I mean, you see the media glorify some shit like.
Yeah.
Push
So
it to
we.
the
This is
extent.
what we do
Okay,
as
we
credible
blame-
messengers.
Do we blame the white people for?
I don't even look at them. They're not
Yeah,
a
we
threat
gotta-
to me.
I mean, I gotta
it
blame
to-
them.
No,
That's just
I
like-
keep it right here where we the closest to them. I'm worried about whoever got a backpack on them and wearing a hoodie over their goddamn head at 110 degrees on a goddamn summer day to make that go away. You out your rabbit. I'm gonna watch that nigga because I shouldn't have to be able to where I got to be worried about sitting next to my brother. But right now you can't do that, especially with a mask. Every nigga done bought
and
something
it-
off that stimulus check. To where they don't wouldn't have got a car with CarMax on it, a goddamn pistol in the glove compartment, and some new tennis on their
Yeah, they
feet.
better know.
So-
They got it
Let-
going on.
let-
Get your money.
Let me say this. You was just
Go
asking,
ahead, go
you was
ahead,
just
back to
asking
Marv.
James about should we hold white people accountable? Should we hold white Americans? Now,
Just-
if me and you grew up and I fed you Skippy dog food until you was 21 years old and told you it was steak, and then you go to a restaurant and buy a steak, shouldn't you hold me accountable for feeding you dog food for 20 years?
Right.
So I can't be responsible for something I don't know.
But see, listening to y'all, it's like we created a system within ourselves to program.
We programming ourselves.
Okay, we programmed ourselves to be efficient, to be that dude, to be that neighborhood. Because when the hood started, when the Bloods and the Crips was doing it, everybody had to shine. Every side had to shine.
But it wasn't nobody ever talked about what they did.
No.
Or even, no, what I'm saying.
Well, everybody knew about
No,
what
but it
was
wasn't
happening
no
because-
everybody. You got to remember, it only was about 35 West Side. We didn't have nobody.
That's
When
a
they
lie.
No, not in 1971. It ain't. When you got every.
But still, you got to look at this. I don't care how you shine if you're not
But nobody had the
economically
attitude that's a
empowered.
flip about it.
Right.
When I ain't got no money,
Right.
and I'm hustling, and I got to steal, it's easy for me to break in your house, but I never went to Beverly Hills. Why should I steal an old TV when I can go in Sears and get a new one?
Right.
And ain't nobody told me that.
Let me
you feel what I'm
interject
saying?
right here so we'll get it right to where people think one over talking to the other. This to the audience, not to them, because they not even tripping. What happens is this. You're hearing something from somebody that's saying something at 18 where it registered to him. We're only 14 and 13.
Right.
We can't process that. So
Right.
when I'm telling you what the experience and the era was, we wasn't thinking about none of that.
Right.
So when I say that, it's not a conflict, because a lot of times people say what one say is not right, or, oh, that's dumb. No, it makes perfect sense when you really look at the other side. So if he's speaking from an 18, he's an adult.
Right.
I'm only 13 coming as an adolescent.
Mentality is different.
So they call that the age of what? Innocence.
Innocence, yeah,
So we
exactly.
don't see nothing where we look from bad to evil. We only 13. So when he's saying in his perspective That is correct. But the gangs in L.A. on the west side, nobody I ever heard said nothing about no civil rights. We were being able to do what we want, but we was robbing ice cream trucks or armored trucks at 14 with freedom and impunity to do what y'all talk about the police get away with. We had an era from 71 to 75 that no matter what we do, we only could get sentenced to 18 and be kept till you was 21 as a juvenile.
Right. And do you think that that mentality made the youth, more hyper or
they
more
didn't give a
active?
fuck at that time because
there was nothing to trip on, What you gonna worry about when whatever? No, go ahead.
No, and what I'm trying, and then because of the area, do you think that the lawmakers and whatever, did they figure that because it was the West Side or they knew
this is how they
areas?
figured out. They covered and made it for the nation.
Okay.
But it started in L.A. to where they knew Compton, Watts, East Side, West Side. That means you go down, don't forget you didn't have all these freeways. That 110 divided everything. Am I correct?
Right.
It'll lead you all the way.
See, what you're talking about, for us, when I went to prison, all my homies was in prison.
Right.
So I didn't miss nothing in Compton.
Exactly.
When he went to prison, when they got the wire and shit, it was 100,000 Crips.
Exactly.
And them that wasn't Crips wanted to be Crips. You dig what I'm saying? So we didn't miss nothing. I remember I grew up like Ozzie and Harriet. I had been in my own house. My father was in the Navy.
Right.
My mother was a college graduate. I was just a bad nigga. You understand me? So I used to go to juvenile hall and I wonder, man, why y'all I'm always there, but why y'all there? Some dudes told me out the projects, man, this is the only place I'd ever been where I had my own bed. My brother and sister pee in the bed and it's one room and my mama's a wino and my daddy's in jail. So their sanctuary was juvenile hall. You dig what I'm saying? Being in juvenile hall was better than being in the projects.
And that's a shame. Can I go back to something? I want to go back to COINTELPRO. What impact on that, I know, but for the audience, what impact did that have on the community?
COINTELPRO on what happened on the community, it was a disenfranchisement of neighborhood beliefs. So what they did what right now people talk about the breakfast program, they put it into the schools, but nobody identifies that the Black Panthers started that.
The free breakfast
Free breakfast program. So COINTELPRO with Angela Davis and Jane Fonda single-handedly tore up the Black Panther Party. You feel what I'm saying? Because under the popular beliefs, Angela Davis was never a Black Panther. She was in the Communist Party. You see what I'm saying? So she didn't even have the concept for what the Black Panthers did. You feel? So they used COINTELPRO to break this off and so by 1970, they went from Black Power to it's your thing, do what you want to do. So we left unity in the community to having money. 1976, the bicentennial year, everybody was having Cadillacs and money, and everybody had the Black Power struggle economically. By 1980, they had stripped Compton of all economics, and we became crackheads.
And let me ask you this, you talk about 1980, what year did crack first enter the community?
1978.
Freebasing. They were freebasing, ether basing, because at that time, my buddy name was Michael Jordan, original Van Ness boy. He married a woman, had a girlfriend that was Tootie Reese, daughter, Rhonda Reese. Hi, Rhonda. Rest in peace, Tootie. But these are the status of Nicky Barnes, because at that time, the keys was, 55 a key?
55.
And also, let's remember this. And this will go to show you how they make laws once blacks start having money. When they made PCP, wasn't nothing wrong with it till it started affecting the whites. Now we're going to go to the cocaine and what happened with that. Before 77, that means 75, 76, you had what they call the disco era.
Right.
Wasn't it fashionable to snort?
Yeah.
Let's talk about snorting back then. We
Was
talked about it
fashionable.
before.
It was something.
It was the rich man's high.
So it wasn't no law.
Exactly.
They didn't have no asset for it.
Okay.
No, you didn't even go to jail. It was fashionable. You had Studio 21, Disco, and they made all those movies where they snorted cocaine as a recreational drug, and Bill Cosby should be out because that's what it was all about. And now they come 20, 30 years later, free Bill Cosby while he at it. He don't do a black man like that. We got our own law for him. Geronimo, and also while we talking about it, and what's my brother in Chicago, Jeff Fort, Larry Hoover, they don't need to be locked up like an animal when their voices can be heard.
Right.
They help some of these pockets of poverty or rat-infested communities that Obama say eloquently and Trump say right off the sleeve, but they're still talking about Compton, Watt, all across black inner cities that are being fleeced by America but winning off the blood of our backs and our families. So let's get back to the attack. And we need to start here where we need to start organizing. And I want to say, you really need to appreciate this brother, that cameraman, that girl sitting, and to your audience, I'm proud to be here where I made it here.
And we glad to have you because this
is all it's about. This is where you need to really come, and it ain't about no politics. We trying to give back and help these youth.
About education.
It's about education, because listening is learning and history is knowledge. You see, when Marvin talk, I come to attention. I'm listening to my elder. And we get back to where we use the internet and other things when all I hear is the drumbeat of Africa when the elders tell the stories. And then that's why I listen. I don't distract. I listen. And then I learn. And then I figured out everybody think we arguing, but really he's 18. Our mindset, we're not even processing. We hadn't had sex with our socks off yet. Shit. To be talking about being a Black Panther.
You're never too old
to learn.
Exactly.
Especially me. I'm just sitting here in awe because of what I'm hearing about, the foundation of how, the situations got started with us as gang banging, and I came later on. I was born in '71, so I didn't start getting into gang banging until like the late '80s and shit like that. So I can understand that situation right there. But just to educate a lot of dudes, because it's tremendous to see what has happened over the course of 50, 60,
50 years to be exact. Then with Marvin in their era, you'll get it from the businessman, the perspective of jail, the criminal justice system, the street. It's called evolution.
And for me to be from Compton, to hear that, that it was all about, just the situations of everybody didn't beef and everybody was doing their own thing, and it took a situation that went sour and everybody started forming their own gangs or whatever, and the mentality of what gang banging is today is far from what, the situation of why brothers started gang banging in the first place. Like, it was like you said, we was just robbing and
being juvenile delinquents and juvenile things.
Now it turned to dudes, AKing people up and drive-bys and just.
I mean, the life thing got so mixed up now that we don't even fight against Crips. Crips don't fight against Pyrus. We killing each other. Right. We got the 500 block against the 2100 block.
Exactly. Within your own set.
A little brother told me one time, he said,
get more love
he told me like,
them around all red.
A little homeboy told me one day, it's 4-line or nothing. I say, 4-line? It's not called 4-line, it's Pyru Street. 142nd was never those hell of a guys. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Well, no, Marv, it's 4-line. That is not, you can't get bigger than the P. You understand me?
James, why you think sets started with fucking like sections in the own?
Well, let me say this. Go ahead. No, James gonna say. I'm gonna tell you what Baba Louie, and Baba Louie is one of the eloquent ones because he really started the East Side.
Right.
They had never seen pudding before in their life, and they thought Baba Louie was pudding. So when you start seeing sets where if you're on Elms or you at Lucas, it was just identifying where you was at. We over in the mob. It wasn't a set. It was all Pyru.
It wasn't even. It was. If you was in back in the days, Luthers Park was the headquarters.
Right.
I don't give a fuck if you was in Am Street, if you was Lime Hood or whoever. When I went to prison, I claimed Luthers Park.
It's all looters.
It was Luthers Park Paru, period.
That's all I ever heard, Luthers Park.
So everything was based on Luthers Park. So when one fight took you away from that, Lime Hood get into it with somebody from Luthers, we ain't fucking with them no more. The Marv got into it with Luthers, we ain't fucking with no more. So everybody started breaking off, and the sections of their neighborhood, when they start selling dope, that's when you claim in this piece of your territory. You know what I'm saying? So, like with Luthers and the Mob, if you cross Bradfield, now we got a difference. So, okay, y'all stay the fuck over there, we stay the fuck over here. But it never got to a point where we had to kill each other because motherfuckers was meeting up and fighting.
Yeah. In them days.
I remember China Dog used to have motherfuckers come up in the headquarters, which if niggas from over there, they know what the headquarters was, in the park up under the what you call that thing? Up under there, and motherfuckers was getting their fight on. You know, Marcus did right, the park here, he right there. So he was always there when he was home. But, you know, it just got to a point where, you know, everybody just started claiming their own shit, which was cool.
Yeah, let's talk
But
about
now,
this.
one more ad bit just for this, because that's Compton. Now, the West Side is a whole different story on how the set starts. So, once again, this way you don't get it unfiltered and think that's how it went for everybody.
Exactly.
On the West Side, I'm going to tell you how we started. When Tookie left, everybody would assume when that murder happened, Tookie was in Compton from 72 on. He was running Bob Simmons' boys home. Had one on Ponderosa and Prime, had another one called the Red House, and Putting him shot him over there. The other one I only know because they shot his car up and they had us, me, Rusty, and Cutes, go change the tire while he bought the shotgun, the same one that got him the death penalty. That's how he got it, and that was down the line. But in our era, the West Side Crips started from 71. That's Bob and all them. That's when they ran into Raymond M. at the Boss Tom Cross record hop up at Sportsman Park, which is Jesse Owens. The only two places Crips ever met in L.A. when it came to East Side and West Side, and now all we talking about is the other side of the 110 freeway. Anything over there is East Side. There are no sets. Everything over here are West Side. Then you got Compton. So, over here, Took was in Compton. He was irrelevant here because he's in Compton dealing with them. Lil James Compton, the Boot Hill was open, the Grandies, one light in, one light out. I can tell you a story about Bodacious. I can tell you a story about Bodacious and Little Vic, who I didn't know his name, or Vincent. And he had clarified the story where we was at that's when we used to all go to the Wasp Festival, right before they shut down everything. But back to that, once the West Side Crips had stopped, which was really, on our side of town, they only had cliques, not gangs, as opposed to, because don't forget, we're integrating into where they have homes and white folks still. We got a miniature golf.
Right.
We got a giant slide.
Okay.
We have a go-kart. You got skating rings. None of that was available, or if it was being gentrification. See how they go?
Right.
Now that I process it and can remember, now I know what to say, and I didn't realize it. So a lot of things that we have going on, don't take somebody as they should have known. No, as you get older, that's the number one deterrent to crime. You start the game slow down, and you start seeing, I had to been a zip damn fool to go and do this goddamn shit. So now, the first set on the West Side was started by Monk, United Underground. Not Underground, United. Next, Melvin Hardy started Block. O'Neal Brown started 111. Terry Block started Watergate. Barefoot Pookie started Payback. No, Godfathers. Because they ended up signing up when we was at Dorsey where they were Harlem Godfathers. And that's what was going on over there. So now, Hoover comes out. And they're mostly from Fremont, Bret Harte, and Bethune, where you got a meeting of junior highs. Now they all at the school, and now it's getting personal because some area has to be king of that school.
Right.
So when we went to Washington from out the 80s, Soul Train was coming out. In our era, 3 things was happening: Soul Train, gangbanging, and pop locking. They all still talked about today. So we didn't set trip, we setting trends here tonight. So then when they start, I get caught with a gun, and no more than by the time I come back, it looks like they have a structure to where they got guys telling them what to do. Don't forget, we only 14, 15, so we got my crew where we just as active as anybody, because you can always hurt a stranger. So we coming from the 80s, and the 60s was coming. Odie Shaw, Raymond Potts, Newhouse, Herman Moncrief, Mark Bolden, just a gang of them. We can go back over them later, but the point was we were unified, but when the Hoovers came out, that's when the problem happened. Because the hundreds, now they getting kicked out, and I tell you, one of my friends, y'all know who Elvis is? If you don't know, that's who started the Swans. I think his last name Wilson.
Elvis Wilson.
Am I correct, my dear Watson?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's get it popping. Sherlock, my big right here, we're going to make it happen tonight. We're going to have some fun, because tonight we're not playing. So now, Elvis got killed at Manchester Park, where really what had happened, because the boy was in YA. I tell y'all, my friends got murder conviction, and the man that was accused of that was in YA with me, Peabody, Barry, Marcus, Nunn, which is China Doll, Cynthia Nunn. I've been knowing their family since they had the house since 13. So when we had to start, and let me tell you, any blood that was in their era on down till about, we started breaking up in 75 and going to jail, you got to get them their salute, because it'll be about 50 of us to 1. But we never abused the privilege. And Marcus Nunn will tell you, when Peabody caught his second murder, his little brother came with him. And they put him in the Crip module. And he only was 18. And he told me, Peabody, my brother, I ain't never been in jail. He went to jail with him, didn't he? Am I lying? Yeah. Coop. Yeah. And I say, hold up, y'all. This is Peabody, brother. And I say, don't worry about nothing. True story. A lot of times, we didn't go because it's only business on the street, but it's no way in our era we gonna be honorable where we gonna try to rat pack somebody or nothing. Then Salty got killed. Ricky Silas, Chocolate. A lot of bodies start falling in the early years, where I can name it all day long, behind what we're going through now. So what happened on the west side started internally. When the Hoovers came out, the hundreds, because they coming to Washington, not only did they not like the Hoovers, they didn't like the boys. They could have went to Crenshaw, which was the hip-hop school. You had Soul Train dancers, but you also, that was the money, Ladera Heights. And plus, it wasn't active. See, in 69, Crenshaw wasn't active. When you go to Washington, it's activity.
Right.
Yeah, that's when you got Underground, Block, 111, Payback, Watergate, Raymond. All them are right there, and they all come from Henry Clay. So that means they got a farm system, if you would treat it like a team, to where they don't want from elementary fucking up to junior high fucking up. Now they in high school, and we coming in, we got to sour oats to make them respect us. We not from over there, we coming from Horace Mann. So when that happened, the Hoovers, which ended up being the 60s, because they started the East Side Bishops, which were West Side. When I moved off 83rd, I went on 63rd and 10th Avenue, and I knew about Space Ghost and them all over there on the East Side Bishops, but I never heard of a West Side Bishop. So me, Barefoot, Pookie, Michael Conception, we sit up and I pull up, and I see a group of men, and this is how you get where you're from, sorta. I see a group of dudes coming from Dorsey. Hey, Poop. Who is them over there? Oh, man, see you tomorrow. So I walk over there. I say, where y'all from? They say, West Side. They say Bishop. They didn't even have no West Side. They say Bishops. So I say, like Bishops with Space Coast and them on the east side? He said, yeah. I say, y'all ain't got Crip on that? I say, don't be here tomorrow. And the next day, I can say his name, they know it. The next day, they were there, and we had a problem. And what I tell you about problems. Okay, so I don't have to say it to you. And that's what happened. And then the 60s started, but it was a problem. You already had in-hood from 111.
Right.
Babyface, the Manuel family, the Overhills, those were the ones, and Babyface in particular, and Fred Hill, because I was with them, because I told you we was robbing ice cream trucks or armored trucks at 14, so we was having money also. So they say, well, they 111, we 6-0. See how they go? Makes sense?
Yeah.
Because you already had 111. But they were in-hood, so how you going to have an in-hood up there and an in-hood up here, and we with Hoovers, and they fighting Hoovers, because that's when it started. So the Hoovers, and that's why you hear moving and grooving. We never turned our backs on them. We didn't understand why if they Crips, that y'all getting at them like that. See, so internal fighting already had started. So that's the longest war when it comes to Crip history, not the 60s and the 8 trays. It's the Hoovers and the 100s. They never shook hands to this day. So we didn't understand it, so we joined up with them, and then we end up, and I say, we're going to start the Gangster Crips, because I'm the founder, co-founder. So when I see them doing, not this before that, let's get back to when I come out, and now they don't start at the sets, but when I went in, it wasn't but one. And I see the get down, and I pull my crew, we leave, we stay on 83rd, and I say, we're going to be Gangster Crips. So I wrote on the wall, Melvin Farmer, Gangster Crip. And then that's when we united with the Hoovers, and we had 748 Trey 9 Deuce 107. We locked down that corridor down 83rd from that freeway down to where when you come to Van Ness, that side is Crips. Now you got Jan Brewer, which later would be the Inglewood families. At this time, they were a chain gang. Wesley Logan, Lil Caesar. So that was the makeup on the west side. We didn't have gangs. They had cliques. And they started from the junior highs mixing, because remember, when that murder happened, they cleaned out the west side. It wasn't a lot of people that were actually getting involved. It wasn't a lot of them like if you would think it was, it's 10, 20, 30, 40 tookies there. No, they crowd would be, maybe 4 or 5 of them. It would never be, they hadn't expanded. But when we joined in, and like you say, the older ones say, we arrived to beef. We juvenile. They didn't have to tell us. Tookie them or none of them ever went to jail after we got in the game. They didn't have to do nothing. Have fun. We got this.
Right.
And our records would show that what we did. So we don't have to talk. We don't glorify. We just here to give a testimony as witnesses, and through God that we here. We're not here to brag, and we want to give condolences to every mother, father, sister, and brother in America that has lost somebody to senseless gun violence, because we cover it all, whether it's friend, family, foe, or even those that are here to serve to protect you. We want to be where we'll be able to be and talk to all community influencers.
So now today, what is your change?
I don't want full circle where I don't want from a tax burden to a taxpayer. While everybody talking about retirement and getting home, I'm bragging about my little job at Trader Joe's. I'm getting $300 and I keep every penny of it. I ain't been broke since. I ain't been broke to talk about breaking the law off of $300. And I don't have millions, but I earned this.
That's right.
And I got a sense of pride to where if I fucked this off, I could have gave that to my daughter in college.
Right.
I ain't fucking it off.
That's right.
And don't y'all do it and fuck off this opportunity. I call it practicing poor. Passing over opportunities repeatedly.
Okay.
We've been doing it too long.
For too damn
Y'all
long.
guys giving us an opportunity. Let's
right.
share and care, and we'll be all right.
Yeah, let me ask you a question, because you go back to guns. And listening to you guys' story, I think this is the quietest I've ever been doing an interview, because I'm just listening. Everything you talk about almost sounds like it was planned and orchestrated, like it was somebody puppet mastering something. Because
Most definitely.
Because if you go back to the cocaine and start off with some ball and stuff,
I
this
agree
is
with
sexy.
that,
Then it
because-
turns to crack, it tears the community up.
Right.
Then you said everything used to be from the shoulders like this. Then the shoppers come. When and how did the guns come in? Because that's what I thought about sometimes.
All you got to do is get Freeway Rick up here. Don't forget he was messing with the Continentals. So
mm-hmm.
when the drugs came, let me tell you what we thought. That's when the weaponry trained. They were sending also weapons of war over here that were for military purposes. So that's when the automatics come over here also in our era.
With the drug trade in the Costa Nostra, in El Salvador, and they found that the money trail could be easily attracted from the ghetto. And that's when they start, what's his name, the general.
Noriega.
No.
Which one?
The one that took the beat for America, John.
I know
I
what you're
can't.
talking about.
So he took the beat for getting the money and bringing the AKs to the United States and pushing them into the ghetto. So it's always been orchestrated. We haven't, from the Emancipation Proclamation, we have never been our own individual self. When we talk about the Emancipation Proclamation in 1865, blacks were freed and freedom. We never had an economical situation. In 1865, blacks were 1% of the economical situation of America. In 2020, we're still 1%. So we haven't made any progress in 156 years. How did that be?
Okay, so answer this question too. You coming from, the era, what do you feel or what do you see? Like everybody screaming this vote this shit, vote that, do this. What do you see as the system change? What have you seen change as far as the time that you have seen since you...
From the only way me and Melvin involved with Credible Messengers.
Right.
Credible Messengers is a nationwide community of ex-convicts. And we go out to make change in children's lives, in people's life. I don't tell you what I did to glorify. I tell you what I did, that it was just like me being in the 3rd grade from the 6th grade. I done dumb stuff and I had to repeat the school year. You dig what I'm saying? So you ain't got to repeat it. So now, today, what we're doing and what we do, as blacks in a whole, whoever is the president, it's not gonna change you. We ain't got a dog in the fight. If Mickey Mouse was the president, it wouldn't change our lives.
So why are people screaming all this?
Okay,
That's because they're being misled by those. Let me show you how it's a conflict of interest, and we'll get right down to the point, not to cut you off, but this going to make it real simple for y'all. Let's look at it. We'll just say organizations, and I have no problems with any organization that can do something to bring and save a person's life. But I just attack things differently, and that's by law. Now, when it comes to law, why is it when we talking about voting, why would the vote matter when the same people are still doing the same things where we went from water hoses to chokeholds, whether it's Democrat or Republican? What's more important is we can make decisions, and when we talk about changes, voting, when they talk, they're talking on a federal level. But when it comes to change in a community, you start at the local, state, and elected officials that are getting the funding where it's not coming to the community. So that's where we concentrate our area on. Our vote ain't gonna matter if...
Why they bitching so much then about
because
the
they get
shit?
money. They get money. Black Lives Matter get all the money. So why would they want to make a law change? When you see civil rights attorneys that got it locked in to where they're getting $14 million just for a child getting killed by police, it's much simpler. Why would you want to change the law when you're getting all the money? So when they're out there as a spokesperson, there's a conflict of interest. How are you going to try to stop something that'll stop your income? But now, this is a think twice. We have to make it to where when you talk about police brutality, it starts with qualified immunity. That is what gives them the opportunity to kill our kids with impunity. Now we're going to get to the civil rights that I do for 23 years, and I think I'm arguably the most best in the nation because I've been doing it and been awarded numerous, but nobody really hear about it. See, we have plans, not promises. So when it comes to police brutality, when it comes to excessive force, it go back to voting and walking till your feet bleed.
Right.
Those are opinions.
Okay.
But the problem stems from the preponderance of evidence when it comes to standard of proof to get a police in court, let alone for a conviction, as opposed to the standard of proof when we do the same act. We got that so far? Right. We commit murder, the evidence means beyond a reasonable doubt or beyond the preponderance of evidence. That's what we get life for. When an officer killed because of qualified immunity, and that's why you hear him say, I thought, it seemed, it looked, it appeared, I feared, because in the court of law that means you have to prove when anybody been to the feds that a conspiracy existed and intent. Or you won't have a federal case, you'll have a state case. So the burden of proof is different when it comes to the police. You have to prove intent. You never can prove intent to a police when they wake up in the morning not knowing what their job entails. And they're trained well enough to know all they got to do is say, I thought, it seemed, it looked, it appeared, I feared. Because in the court of law, those words mean something. I had 2 life sentences where 2 words were said at the end of the question, no, and each time I got a reversal. 1 point can change the whole outcome, and that's the word intent. When you look up the color of authority that they work up under, you cannot prove, unless you prove intent, you never can indict the police, but they'll be held accountable for personal liability. And that's where we have a 5-step plan, and that's when we talk about police oversight. We have a plan for that, but you see, I had the knowledge to address that on another issue where we just make it straight. But let me see what I'm saying, man?
Let me interject on that, on your plan. When you talk about a plan, you ask, what will we doing about the vote? And people crying about the vote, right? And I told you, we don't have a dog in the race. Every politician, other than us, they have accountability to their people.
Exactly.
Whatever they say, they're held accountable for it. If a Mexican say something about one of the constituents, one of his kids get hung or his relatives get hung in Mexico. We have leaders that would have no accountability. They can talk for Compton and never been in Compton. They can do this thing, so it's no accountability. So we've never had a party of leaders to ask America for anything. We've never asked for anything, so you can't get anything. A lot of people don't know. President Obama in 2012 came up with a law called the Jobs Act. And he says, I'm going to break the wealth gap so minorities can get the same money as the upper class, right?
Right.
In Chapter 7 of the Jobs Act, and he said in 2012, go tell the blacks, right? So now, when they made the law in 2015 and made the Jobs Act law, economical wealth, they said go tell minorities. That don't make you a nigga, huh? So now the Iranians, the Mexicans, the Japs been dealing with the Job Acts. Today is the first time y'all ever heard of it, huh?
Yeah.
Me too. I never worked.
So the Jobs Act, let me tell you, the Jobs Act, it say closing the wealth gap. They have something, have you ever heard of unicorn stock?
Okay.
I know about you.
Unicorn stock is a private stock that goes into, when it goes to Wall Street, it becomes $1 billion stock. It's the only thing that you can get 1,000% of your interest. If you give $100, you get 100,000. You hear what I'm saying? Okay. That's unicorn stock. It automatically goes. They say they find 400 unicorns a year in the world. They don't have but 3 in America. That dude, Robert Aaron from Shark Tank, he left Shark Tank. He has a special that comes on YouTube called Angels and Entrepreneurs. And he charges from $500 to $5,000 to find a unicorn. They say in his first hour, he had 70,000 people that came in on him. So he's getting paid every month just to find a unicorn, right? And in all of this, you won't have one black unicorn. There's never been a black unicorn, but today it is. Me and my partners, if you look at the Black Unicorn Factory, my partner, Johnny Stewart, he just got out of the feds in April. Last month, he just acquired $225 million for unicorn stock. By March, he'll be a unicorn and will be the first black billionaire company. You dig what I'm saying? So not knowing economical value of what we're doing, people talk for us and talk about us, but even after the 1992 riots, everybody profited but blacks. The Koreans got new money, everybody got new shit, but we still got burn up places on Vermont and Manchester.
People's lot, that ain't nothing but a lot. They ain't came back and built nothing.
Nothing in the black community because we asked for nothing.
We ain't got nothing.
You dig what I'm saying? So when it all comes down and you hear every politician, when they speak and they say, we're going to do this for minorities and we're going to do, they never mention black people in America.
Can I ask you guys, not to cut you off, I want to ask a question that may be kind of rhetorical, it may not be an answer. What do we do now? Because it seems like our community is another chaos. Our kids are losing their minds. You got kids running around wearing boys wearing dresses. And it's almost like, sometimes if you look at it, it almost seems like, man, is the world about to end?
Yeah.
You got the rumors of war, you got the pandemics running around, you got people, if you're walking down the street, man, you pass a brother, usually you acknowledge another brother, say, how you doing, whatever.
Right. Today you
look like they, you kind of stand themselves. What's the solution, man?
I try to make it a point to when I see another brother to always say, hey, what's up? Or try to give that easement.
Instead of saying where you from.
Giving a motherfucker that you can pull up on a motherfucker and give him that look. And it'll be a wrong thing. So you try to do that nowadays to try to break the ice in certain situations. Right. Because I think you're going to always run into that.
And it's another thing, too. What happened to, how you doing, sir? Nice meeting you. Where did OG come from? And I don't mind that, but to me, it's disrespectful. You see, what's happening, OG?
Right.
What's happening? How you doing, sir? You know what I mean?
OG right now mean opportunity together. We need to change that dialogue to where you think to be OG, you got to be hardcore. See, sometimes we have to change the dialogue. Right. Or else we ain't gonna never change you stand. So we need to make it where OG just stand for opportunity giver. Then anybody age, because what they do is try to make it look like they was here, there in the beginning.
But then when we do that, like his grandson, they don't want to listen to us.
They don't have to. That's because you ain't giving them they don't get the resources, and that's come back to where the resources not coming, because what happened is, you have to get economical development in a community. Let me tell you, in 2015, they had the 100 Days, 100 Nights. We're going to get to the point. When the 100 Days, 100 Nights started, that's when L.A. and every gang in L.A. was after the Hoovers and the Ayht, and that was when they said they was going to kill somebody. Crime and murder was at an all-time low, and you probably heard of the community I'm from, Death Valley. So from 2015 to this day, you'll hear all the politicians and Karen Bass and everybody that's against public safety, Mike Gibson, and they'll be bragging about crime is down. But it's also through their efforts, but a lot of times people that are closest and have their boots to the ground, they do the work when the camera's not around. Mm-hmm. So those are the ones that I work with. I can say just overall crime from the highest and where they was when the street light come on to where we at now, it's a tremendous, that's like when Nipsey Hussle murder happened in United Gangs. If you think Nipsey Hussle murder made it to where the Ayht gangsters overnight happened, I just put a picture up with Big U, Tony Stacey, where in 2016, Melvin already had a vision. because I'm in a church where everybody in there is big youth family and all 60s, and they were still warned. I've been discussed that. And that's when the murders went down, where we kept it secret. So when we hear the other stories, they had bros in it, but Melvin had his hands in it, where I do deals to where I bring in opposing sets to where they create dialogue. That's what I do. I'm a community organizer, and I basically have where we should have diplomatic, and I do on my side of town and anywhere else, because I never crossed the line when the Crips went into Crip on Crip. In 80, I retired because I knew everybody from 71 that made it what it is at that time, and I couldn't go back. So, and at the end of the day, we have an organization where we have on our own, where we can do it on our own, to where we write, like I say, we cover police brutality, police oversight, community concerns, and community and citizens complaint. Not only do we talk about gangs, because I'm telling you I'm coming to run for Eiht district, I talk about homelessness. I'm going to introduce a new bill called ISIS, which is inner city stress syndrome, to where like they say they got PSD or STD or whenever they go to war, these kids been born in the war. And who talks for them when these youths are being violated and they're not getting a chance? So we're not just talking about it. I feel that should be to where these kids...
You got to partake in it.
We have to partake in it. Just because the elephant has the biggest head doesn't mean he got all the sense. So in other words, exactly. I want to get in where we all have a voice, where your generation, that way you hear their thoughts, and then we react off their thoughts and go into action. If they say this what bothering them, I ain't gonna argue them. If that's what bothering you, I'm gonna see what I can do to help take that ailment away. And that's how you preach and teach. Right. We have to set an example from him where he taught me, because I tell you, I don't want to hear that. We argued before. We argued exactly. We argued all day, and then that's still what we do.
Exactly.
Cut showtime.
That's right.
And we let it go, and look how the show came out. Nobody hesitated. All of us speaking from the heart.
All grown men can talk to each other, especially when you've been through the same, trials and tribulations.
Our language is the same. You kind of
understand each other. I just want to ask one more question. I want to give people, because when I do songs or when I write, I put out music, I always try to give people the sense of it's never to glorify where I was from or the situations. Compton, I grew up, whatever. It was always a product of my environment. Now, you say your grandson is the young, he's how old?
20. Well, my grandson's 20, my son's 21.
Okay. I got a son, 16, right? It's the product of your environment. Do you feel that?
Yeah,
Do you feel that?
I feel that 100%.
The youth adapts to the product of their environment? Because I lived in Spooktown.
Mm-hmm. You have to adapt.
I automatically, by the time it was
where you gonna go, you have to go to that.
It was natural to gang bang, to join the set, so to speak. Okay. I started rapping, making music, whatever. I moved out to, the suburbs, Inland Empire.
Right.
My son never seen gang banging, but from what he's heard from me and stories of the homies and watching Menace to Society, me acting and whatever. He's never had that, His life is growing up. He's a football star at his high school, and I put him in sports at 3 years old. So I gave him a different environment, so to speak. But if he grew up where I was banging, it's natural that 9 times out of 10, he probably would be banging too.
Because he has to survive. A youth in the inner city, where when you moved him out, he had total freedom to be himself. Like when you take a youth into a music thing where they got instruments, you might want him to play a horn, but he'll be banging the drums when that's what you should have got, because his ears telling him that's what he like.
Right.
But let me intervene on that, because sometimes just because you move a kid somewhere, don't change their lifestyle.
Exactly.
But in this case, it did. Let's see what worked.
Wait a minute. Some work. Some people have moved out of Watts and moved to Rancho Cucamonga, and they got Rancho Cucamonga bloods because he wasn't doing nothing in the hood. And when he got out there, I'm from Compton.
But when they first ruled to Rancho Cucamonga, it was exclusive. Over time, let's not make it where he's wrong, but I'm going to show you the cause and effects. Don't forget when they moved from Watts, that's the equivalent of Beverly goddamn Hills. And during time when gentrification come and force you there, then they set you there, and now they're sending that environment where it don't been placed here. See how that's gentrification? Because in the era when you say you moved to Watts, I'm not saying you don't. No, when they moved to from out there to Rancho, I guarantee you when they started, it was an exclusive area. So now, when you say they went there and they were gangbanging, there was no gangbanging there until they relocated. You can research it. So I can visualize that area where you're right, but later on, they moved there.
What he's asking, what he asked is about the environment of children and how his child, where he grew up at. Now, undercover, his kid may be a great kid, but he still got the image of his gangster father, MCA.
Right.
He still got the grounds of Compton.
Right.
You dig what I'm saying? He may be where he at, but every now and then, he gonna buff it to his peers because this is what it's about. Now, doing the struggle, my kids grew up in Compton. Right. I got some that didn't, grew up in Pasadena. My son, the one that just told me that couldn't nobody tell me nothing. This boy went to private school. He went to Sarah High School, went to college, came back out, and still became a Fruitown Baru. You dig what I'm saying? So the environment sometimes perceives it's not what I did for him, but what somebody else told him I was. Like I told him, I just met you. How you know what I did when I was a kid? You dig what I'm saying? So environment, a lot of times, just because...
So is he basing his reputation or being from Fruitown...
Because of what he heard about OG, your dad was doing this, and you got, like I'm telling you, you got a 40, 50-year-old dude still in the park. He's only in the park because he lost his mama's house. He's riding a bicycle, not because he exercised, because he don't have a driver's license. And he's telling a 15 or 16-year-old about being OGs, and he really never met James.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? He wasn't cool at the time James was cool.
Exactly.
But now, I was with MCA and I did this. But who is the one to balance and say, you lying? So that's why when we talk about how we control, I keep it relevant in the hood, like brother was just saying. I have to have respect. Don't call me OG. I'm now Mr. Kinsey. I earn that respect.
Right.
Nigga, we're not teammates. You dig what I'm saying?
Do you feel...
Wait a minute, let me say something. Okay.
Do you feel offended when niggas come up to you or know of your history? Do you feel offended by them associating you with that still?
No. I mean, I'm who I am because of what I did. I wouldn't change a thing in my life.
Exactly.
I grew up, like I said, I thought I was in the Beaver Cleaver. They told me Compton was a ghetto in 1970 in YTS. I didn't understand it. It's nothing I would have done. I would have changed some things that I ran my mother through. You dig what I'm saying?
Right.
But everything else, I did it for a purpose. I didn't get into gangbanging because somebody jumped me in. I seen the economical value, and I was manufacturing PCP when I got out of prison.
Right.
And I put it down with my little homeboys so we could do things out of town. And everybody had Cadillacs, Little Fella, Bebe, Frog, all of them, Danny Pittman, all of them dudes came up under me. You dig what I'm saying? So it's certain things that I can't hide from. And I don't say I'm sorry for what I did. It was an education, but you don't have to go through the same struggle I did.
Now, I want to answer that and ask me the same question because that's from a perspective view and that's from a political view where they preach that. Now we're going to talk about the Crips view because I bleed blue. Now, ask me the same question because he's under 4 years. Now, ask me the same question as what you asked was. You asked was, do you think when I moved my son to Rancho, did you think that make it because my son ain't been subjected to it or whatever?
The hood life.
And now let me tell you, when I see it, what I see it. And it does make a difference. Sometimes you can be blinded by the light with the answers in the dark. All I know is whatever you did was successful. Mm-hmm. And that's what I would call protocol. Right. There's nothing else to explain because, as I said, his opinion is right. Definitely. And once again, I always go back to pro-black and anti-black. Those are two different ideologies. Mm-hmm. So you cannot press your ideology when what you're talking about is the kids that committed violence that create exactly what it's talking about. That era didn't commit and make the Bloods and the Crips. They were pro-blacks. Or else we wouldn't have had to fight them when we went there. But what I'm saying is the question was, did it change to where he had a chance to meet? When I look at it, all I see is a kid, because he didn't have to avoid gun violence, didn't have to worry about being pressured, could concentrate and focus on and have a chance to survive. It succeeded and he didn't get in trouble, where a lot of times we just born in the community we're to where we don't have no choice but to try to survive every day and get what we can, how we can, and it could be any kind of way. So it go back to your economical, and we need to start doing what you say as far as bringing the thing, but also practicing what you telling us now to where I understand where I made my mistake. That was a hell of a question you did. Mm-hmm. And his solution, I learned something that go back to listening and saying, all we need to do is follow their protocol because they were pro. Mm. That means they never had no hard feelings toward me in your life.
But you base it on different perspectives.
Right, so they all
but
right.
It's the same thing.
But,
right.
but see, in the same, what you're talking about, this is 2020, and we got the same plague. So these kids are not growing up having to really we're tripping off each other now. So where did we get that dispensation? You dig what I'm saying? Well, I can understand what you're saying about moving a child out in a safe space. But now, where's the safe space?
None.
With the media, with the thing, you got gangbangers in Mississippi, in the woods.
Exactly.
You dig what I'm saying? So what's their difference? So with media changing, with this and that, it's not all the time you can save a kid. I had a lady tell me one time that she never knew. She sent her son out every day in a uniform. And he went to the bushes and put on some gang attire. Yeah. And when people told her about it, she cussed them out until he got arrested for a murder. 10 years this boy was gangbanging. And his mom and them never knew, because now with the workforce, with the things that parents are doing, see, the system took children out of our control for 30 years.
Right.
You can't whoop them. You can't do nothing to them. So now children feel like got a right. I'll call 911 on you.
Yeah.
Have parents scared of their children.
Exactly.
Now America has abandoned black children. Now they tell you that they closed down LP. Juvenile hall only has hard crimes.
Damn, I've been to LP.
You dig what I'm saying? They close LP down.
I was just telling you about that.
The county system.
Peacocks there.
Yeah,
That used to be
the county system has turned over everything to another form. Now your child has to go on replacement. If something happens in juvenile, like I said before, I could put my mother them could put me in juvenile hall for incorrigible. That I wouldn't mind, and I had to go to juvenile hall. But today, if a child is incorrigible and you can't handle the child, you go to jail.
Yeah,
Right.
It's true.
It's true.
Yeah, they can press charges.
Shit, in some states, your fucking kid missed school or ditch. They charge
You gotta pay for it.
That's what. So now they done turn the children loose on you. You ain't even dealt with this kid in 20 years.
Right.
Now they got to tell you, you got to deal with him. I don't even know him.
Yeah, you know, this stuff, man, we can go on all night, man. And we're going to have y'all come on again, man, because this has been an incredible episode, man. It's nothing but the truth coming out, man. Can't nobody debate nothing y'all saying because it's true.
And me personally, it's not about Bloods and Crips. It's not about what side was the best and what side was this. Every prison I went to, we was outnumbered by Crips. You recognize the Bloods because they stood tall and fought. 9 against 240. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So it didn't matter about the power. It didn't matter about who would. I mean, it didn't matter. None of that shit matters. Today we killing each other. Mm-hmm. You got more Crips killing Crips than Crips killing Bloods. What was our purpose? The purpose is gone now. This is what mattered. The purpose of being a gang member is no good. We exhausted everything here. You know what I'm saying? If you 30, if you 28 and you out there banging like you don't know shit, you know what I'm saying? This is the experience right here. But people got to understand, man, it just don't matter. Look at the color of our skin. Let's pay attention to where we at. As we get older, we get smarter. That's when we grow up. That's when our mentality changed. Mm-hmm. And that's when we stop doing what we're doing. And that's why we at the table now. Mm-hmm. Because we want that change. Because we got grandkids. My grandson is going to be as solid as everything. Because I'm raising him hands on. Not get out there and go shoot. If you get your ass whooped, I'm going to whoop your ass. Mm-hmm. We don't have to do that. I'm teaching him how to be a little man, a young man, and then an adult.
Grown man.
I'm teaching him, and that's what all of us need to stand up and do.
Yeah,
is teach our grandkids and our sons, and bam.
But you know what you just said, James? Whether we was outnumbered or not in the penitentiary, we understood that we wasn't the enemy of each other.
Right.
We had white boys and Mexicans. Before I get mad at a Crip, I had to take care of my other business.
Right.
You dig what I'm saying? I was in Tracy in 1984 with 960 Crips on the line. You know, Booker T from Broadway, and Swan, Big Swan came and told me, "Hey, Mo, you can't stay here, man. This is Blue City." Like shit, the same bus brought you.
Exactly.
You understand what I mean?
Same thing in
So
Chino.
how I'm gonna roll up? I just did 22 months in the hole in San Quentin. You think I'm a lock up?
That's what I said.
This is not going down. So now the representatives from Compton, Santana Mike, Sherwood, Bam, I've been knowing these since kids, and they like, man, homie, if y'all got something against Marv, you got something. Sherwood came out one morning with a red sweatshirt on, a front hood Crip.
That's right.
And that's historical because you could still wear colors in prison.
You dig what I'm saying?
Yeah. He talked about.
Yeah.
So we understand that it was basic us.
Right.
You dig what I'm saying? We ain't set tripping and this and that. Like I'm saying, Malibu Mike from Hoover, all of these dudes that I've been going with. They're like, man,
even that, growing up being a blood, you had to respect each other because wherever you went, you was outnumbered.
Yeah.
You didn't have a choice. We can go in this cell and fight, but after that's over, we're gonna go to the child hall, we're gonna do whatever. We can walk the yard and do whatever. But I mean, all of that is like out the window.
Out the window.
Let's say.
Yeah, this could be, man.
What can we do today?
Like I said,
I think, like you said, we've learned a little better that, you know, a lot of us who have grown up and matured have, learned the ways of trying to educate, at least in our section or the youth we know. We try to give knowledge too. So, like you said, we could talk for hours and hours about the same shit.
Yeah, we go shut it down now, man.
Yeah.
Because we can keep going to 12 o'clock in the morning with all this knowledge. Now, man, where can the people find out your information at? Where can they go?
Melvin Farmer, Credible Messenger. I'm on all forms of media outlets, social media. When it comes to audio, video, print, I have a YouTube station, Hidden Corners. I'm an author where you can go to Amazon. I wrote a book called The New Slaves, The Ship 3 Strikes You In, because I'm the first 3-striker to get a life sentence and the first in the history to ever be released on a reversal. I've also, I do political action committee. You can email me, Melvin Farmer 359 at gmail.com, or you can call Dr. Rosie Milligan Books. And you guys that have ideas to where you want your books published, we have a publishing company, Milligan Books. If you have loved ones in jail, you can come here. We can get them magazines where they have to give it merits to where it be consent to them. So a lot of information is hid in books. So you aspiring authors, you're free to come, but there you can go and call us 323-750-3592. You can also get your health products. They do CAT scans. They give out insurance because a lot of these kids, and you all agree to this, one of our major problems is we don't have insurance. And these kids die to where you have to have car washes for their funerals.
Right.
We have another company that's one of the biggest growing in Inglewood that I work with as an ambassador called PHP, People Helping People, run by Donald Quaynine. And so we got a lot of information and things. We don't really have enough time. But I have a plan to where if we organize and we can make something happen where we can make a change. But more importantly, I'm running for the 8th District. I think that's where change started. I'm not here to sit and talk about it like you said earlier. We have to go to local. It's not the fault of the elected officials when it comes to the federal level. To bring change, you have to go through the local and elected officials that are held responsible for protecting our community and making sure that the community is represented and that they are doing due diligence. I don't believe that due diligence in my district, 8th District, is being served to where one side is getting electric trains and new malls and another side is getting busted, but only one street. So we're going to go and see what we can do to bring economical empowerment and redefine our community while also attacking criminal justice.
Exactly,
man.
I'm Ayatolla Marv, National Representative for the West Coast with Melvin for Credible Messengers out of Washington, D.C. with Clinton Lacey and Antonio Fernandez King Tone with the Latin King. Shout out to Sean
Stevens.
Shout out to
Credible Messenger, son.
And I'm at, my organization is Public Information Relations Unit, Compton, California. I'm associated with the BlackUnicornFactory.com, Bridging the Wealth Gap. My email is noiprotection@gmail.com.
That's it, man. Right there, some incredible brothers, man.
Yes, indeed.
And we'd like to thank you, man, for tuning in to another episode of the Gangster Chronicles. This has truly been, man, a history lesson tonight. One that you need to really just look at once or twice, as we got a lot of issues in the neighborhood. And these are the guys that's gonna lead you to the future, because you can't go forward without knowing your past.
Right.
Exactly.
That's
Can't
true.
go forward without knowing your past, man. Download the Eiht app, man. Remember Apple Podcasts, 5-star rating, subscribe. Peace, we out of here.
Yeah.
Well, all right, y'all. All across the USC, Compton, Watts, Bay to LA, Pomona, California, from valley to valley, we represent that killer Cali. So if you keeping it real on your side of your town, you tune in to Gangster Chronicles.
Gangster Chronicles, we gon' tell you how it goes.
If I lie, my nose will grow like Pinocchio. We gon' tell you the truth and nothing but the truth.
Gangster Chronicles, this is not your average show.
You're now tuned into the real MC8, Big James, and Big Stairs.
This is strictly from the streets.
Hello.
We represent the G's.
We represent the G's, never no wannabes.
Gangsters, hustlers, players on the go. Tune in like every week.
If you wanna hear the real, well, you done come to the right spot. Gangster Chronicles.
Finally get